Hey everyone, have you ever noticed what seems like a contradiction in the Bible? Let's talk about one that often comes up regarding the resurrection of Jesus. Specifically, when was the stone rolled away from his tomb? In the Gospels of Mark, Luke, and John, it's pretty clear. By the time Mary Magdalene and the other women arrive at the tomb early on that Sunday morning, the huge stone is already gone. Mark 16:4 says they saw that the stone had been rolled away. Luke 24:2 tells us they found the stone rolled away from the tomb. And in John 21, Mary Magdalene comes to the tomb and sees that the stone had been taken away. So 3 accounts say the stone was moved before the women got there. But then we get to Matthew's Gospel, and it seems to tell a different story. In Matthew chapter 28, it says Mary Magdalene and the other Mary came to see the tomb. Then verse 2 says, "And behold, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven, and came and rolled back the stone from the door, and sat on it." It goes on to describe the angel's appearance, the guards fainting in fear, and the angel speaking to the women. At first glance, it really looks like Matthew is saying the women were standing right there and witnessed this whole dramatic scene, the earthquake, the angel descending, and the stone being rolled away. This has led some people to ask, which is it? Was the stone already gone, or did the women see it happen? It feels like a genuine contradiction. So, how do we make sense of this? The key is understanding how ancient narratives, and specifically the Bible, were written. They didn't always follow a strict, linear, minute-by-minute timeline like a modern news report. Sometimes, writers would arrange events topically or use a literary device that as a bit like a flashback or a parenthetical note. Let's look closer at Matthew 28. Think of verses 2 through 4, the part about the earthquake and the angel. Not as what the women saw, but as Matthew hitting pause on the main story to give us, the readers, some crucial background information. He's essentially saying, by the way, before the women got there, here's how the stone was moved and why the guards were gone. The clue is in verse 6. After all the drama, the angel says to the women, "He is not here, for he is risen, as he said. Come, see the place where the Lord lay." The angel's statement implies that Jesus had already risen. The earthquake and the angel's arrival weren't to let Jesus out. He was already gone. They were to reveal the empty tomb and to serve as a divine announcement of the resurrection. So Matthew isn't saying the women witnessed these events. He's using what's called a topical arrangement. He wants to group all the information about the stone and the angel together, even though it happened slightly before the women arrived on the scene. It's like telling a story and saying, "Now what had happened earlier was." This isn't unique to this passage. The Bible does this in other places too. For example, in the book of Genesis, chapter 2 goes back and gives a more detailed, zoomed-in account of the creation of humanity. So, when we read Matthew 28, we're not seeing a contradiction. We're seeing a different storytelling technique. Mark, Luke, and John give a straightforward chronological account of the women's experience. Matthew gives a more comprehensive picture, including the behind-the-scenes, divine events that preceded their arrival. He's filling in the gaps for his readers. All 4 Gospels agree on the most important facts. The tomb was empty, the stone was moved by divine power, and Jesus had risen from the dead. The apparent discrepancy is just a difference in narrative style, not a contradiction in fact. It's a great reminder to consider how and why the biblical authors wrote the way they did. I hope this helps clear things up. It's one of those details that can be confusing, but when you look at it in context, it makes perfect sense. Thanks for watching. And if you found this helpful, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. See you next time.